It's kind of the same way that I feel about grief. So grief is a very powerful weapon that replaces like the majority of content that's already in the game. Like nobody's going to be using a Baron Arrow Star when there's a grief, handy, and nobody's going to be using a grandfather when there's a grief handy, So all of the existing content that's already within the game has kind of been usurped by the grief. Like I kind of feel like it's almost the same thing that they need to do to the melee weapons, which is like the same thing they did for the terror zones, which is, hey, let's take some of these older zones that aren't really used and let's make it so that people can actually go back there and have some fun. Like, I feel like they could probably do the same thing with all the old weapons and all the old pieces of equipment that have kind of gotten like just completely made obsolete by some of the newer stuff. Like just kind of broaden the, not like replace grief or anything, not make grief obsolete to the point where nobody wants to use it, but just broaden the playing field so that people have other options and actually might use something else besides one weapon.
Yeah, I'm kind of sort of along the same lines, but I'm a little more on the, we'll say I'm more cautious as far as it comes to like change. Not necessarily more cautious because I don't necessarily know how cautious you are, but I'm definitely cautious as far as it comes to change, just because, I'm worried that they're going to end up making some change like Thunder Charms dropping everywhere. You know what I mean? Like things like that. And I will preface that by saying I actually was happy with how the skill changes that they made. Was that before the first or second season? I can't remember which one now. Must have been the first, but I was happy with the way that the skill changes actually went. I'm happy with Nova, happy with Fist of Heavens. And a lot of people don't really play them, but like even the fire traps, I was happy with. I did a bunch of different Magic Find runs with a fire trap assassin. Even some other stuff. It's not the best in the world. Even the Summon Druid, the way that it kills, it's not the fastest, but they work now. I don't necessarily want every skill to be the fastest, the best. I don't need everything to be the Hammerden, you know what I mean? So I was happy with those. But anytime we talk about, anybody talks about future changes, I'm always a little bit nervous when there's something that's, don't let perfection be the enemy of great. If you ever heard that saying before, you know what I mean?
So I'm right there along with you. Like I personally don't like changes that go beyond the bounds of what the game is. But I think I might actually be a little further than you, because I even harken back to like the days of Classic, which are pre-synergies. And
right.
like in the pre-synergy days, like you could build more diverse and more like, like just as an example, you could build a tri-element sorceress. Like you could build a fireball / meteor, / whatever. Like you could go like lightning and have like a T-storm, and you could do like all 3 elements if you wanted to.
Okay. Yeah, I played back then, but I was so, we'll call it unknowledgeable about the game, I guess. It was more just I didn't really know anything besides hey, why is that Amazon wearing a green helmet and a black armor? I need to figure that out.
But like the thing is that like in those pre-synergy days, there was a lot of stuff that you could do that you couldn't do when synergies came out. So like at the same time I want to be like a truist to the game, I also look back at some of the older times and I'm like, okay, well, I don't really like the way that synergies work as much as I like the original way. And they're both unique ways, but the Sunder Charms came in and they kind of represented harken back to the old days. That's how I saw them. Like it was like, okay, well, these Sunder Charms are going to let me do what I used to be able to do, like in the old days, and actually kind of build more into a specific tree. Like, because if you wanted to in the old days, you could just go full fire, you could go full cold, you could do full lightning or whatever. Like it didn't really matter too much back then, because they hadn't added in LOD yet. They hadn't added in all the crazy uniques and the crazy rune words and all that other stuff.